So we are now officially in the fourth industrial revolution, where emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence are going to fundamentally change the way we work, play and interact with each other. But will these fundamental changes be to the benefit or the detriment of humanity? So what I'd like to talk about today is the potential impact of AI on the future of work and what we can do to make sure we're steering the ship in the right direction. But before looking forward, I'd like to look at where we currently stand. So after a long winter of reduced funding and interest in AI, we are now in AI spring, where AI is outperforming humans in a wide range of tasks. For example, some of the most common jobs of our economy, such as sales and retail, are now being replaced by AI. This is Alibaba's workshop, where 70% of the jobs are now done by machines. Machines are now leaving the workshop, not by themselves, but this one actually can lay 1,000 bricks an hour, which is the same that a human could do in 2 days. It's currently got a contract to build 50,000 homes in Saudi Arabia. And of course, even humanoid robots are starting to do better than humans. So don't try this at home. So before making any predictions about the future, I'd like to actually clear up 3 main misconceptions that people have about artificial intelligence and what they will and won't be able to do in the future. The first is that our jobs are safe because artificial intelligence will never have emotions. This is actually false. So if you consider that emotions are the guidance system of the brain, every emotion that you have is there for a reason. Happiness actually drives learning and curiosity. So this is one of my robots that was actually trained on happiness. So here, like a child, it starts off with basic reflexes, and over time, through happiness, through curiosity, actually teaches itself how to interact with the environment. So the point here is that machines of the future will need emotions, will have emotions, because it is central to learning. The second misconception is that AI won't be creative like us. And again, this is false. One of these 2 images was actually generated by an algorithm. So a neural network trained on thousands of faces asked to generate a novel face. Is the fake on the left or on the right? You're all wrong, they're actually both fake. This is occurring in real time, generating faces that don't actually exist. And it can be trained on a whole range of topics. So this is it generating cars and also interior design. So again, these are things that didn't exist in the real world that it's generating on the fly. So AI will be creative. This is being used for generating art, music, etc. The third misconception is that it's not going to happen anytime soon. This is me when I was starting out 40 years ago on one of the first computers on the market. This is my son 40 years later. Now, if you look at the specs, what you'll notice is that over 40 years, computers became 1 million times more powerful in 40 years. So considering the fact that AI is already exceeding human performance in a wide range of tasks, imagine what's going to happen in the next 40 years where they're going to be 1 million times more powerful than what they are now. So given these advances in AI, what direction are we heading? Is it going to be used for the benefit or the detriment of society? Who is currently steering the ship? Well, the ship is actually currently being steered by company viability. So large corporations are now, across every sector, now investing in artificial intelligence for competitive advantage. So that means, in practice, that if I can come up with a machine that can do your job better than you can, it's more cost effective, your job will be replaced. It makes sense. What this actually means, and what's been happening, is it's predicted that nearly 1 billion jobs are going to be lost within the next 10 years. 1 billion jobs will be lost to automation in the next 10 years. And if you think that we can simply retrain these people, previous success rate of doing so is 0 to 15%. This is a huge problem. And considering that AI will be emotionally intelligent, will be creative, a survey of the top AI experts figure that there's a 50% chance that all jobs are going to be replaced within the next 40 45 years. All jobs within 45 years. So let's not just talk about jobs, let's talk about psychological impact. So this is the PERMA model of human flourishing. It says there's actually 5 components to human well-being. Depression is now at epidemic proportions. 87% of the workplace currently is disengaged. Positive relationships. In the States, 2/3 of marriages currently end in divorce. Loneliness is now at epidemic proportions and has the same impact on your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Meaning and purpose. They're now calling us the selfie generation rather than the selfless generation. Narcissism is on the rise. So, according to all metrics of human flourishing, if you use corporate viability as the metric for steering your ship, this is what has been happening. Companies are flourishing, humans are struggling. That is a fact. And it's only going to get worse. We are far from steering the ship in the right direction. But I am an optimist, and there is some hope. And the hope that I have found is in some of our closest biological relatives. So, most of you have heard the term alpha male. Most of you grimace when you hear it. But interestingly, in the wild, the alpha male, the leader of the troop, has these 4 traits. He's bigger, stronger, wiser, and kinder. He's not just the commander-in-chief, he's actually the consoler-in-chief and the protector-in-chief. In fact, the alpha male has more empathy than anyone else in the troop, including the females. And it's this empathy that actually gives stability. So if an alpha male is a tyrant, the first sign of weakness, he'll be overthrown. Right? If you have an alpha male that's kind and caring towards others, if there's a sign of weakness and somebody tries to challenge, everyone else steps in to help. So empathy actually holds the tribe together. And this is the one thing that we're lacking in society at this point in time. It's people who are willing to steer the ship in the right direction that benefits everybody rather than just the corporate dollar. And that is what we need for survival. But we are seeing glimmers of hope here and there around empathy. And the important thing to note is empathy and kindness are not just good for society. It turns out, psychologically speaking, it is the best thing that you can do for yourself. There's a study called the Grant Study that actually followed individuals for 80 years over their lifetime and actually found that the number 1 predictor of health, happiness and success was warmth of relationships. That is it. The best thing that you can do for yourself, if you care about your own happiness and success, is invest in other people. That is it. It's the number 1 thing you can do for yourself, for your teams and humanity. So there's 3 points I want to leave you with. Number 1 is there's a tsunami of technological change heading our way. And this will either wipe us out, or it can be harnessed for the greater good. The decision is really about leadership. And true leadership is taking care of those in your care. That is what we need, really. But it's a win-win situation. Kindness and empathy is the key to our success, not just at a societal level, but it is the very best thing that you can do for yourself. If you're working 80 hours a week, that doesn't actually buy you happiness. Caring connections does. So in a world where you can be anything, be kind. Thank you.